Don't look at girls. Don't look at girls, okay? Like I told you. Don't look at girls.
Oh my god, Brandon, run!
Awesome!
In the last video I made about Brandan and Mary, there was no steamy hookup like they had talked about, and being together in person was a big change. Now that these two were finally together and not on constant video call, there were a lot of unknowns. And my biggest question was still, who was the most jealous and controlling of the two? Was Brandan really just the mild sauce that did whatever Mary wanted? Was it Mary that was the true villain here? The thing is, I don't have a problem with labeling someone as a villain on the show. Just ask Small Ed, or Danielle, or Chris. But with Mary and Brandan, I hesitated on the first few episodes. And it's not because Mary is young or a woman. It's because in the first few episodes of this Other Way season, we had only seen Brandan and Mary interact over video call. Those interactions were ridiculous and pretty strange on both sides, but I did start to lean towards Mary being worse than Brandan, especially when she said she unplugged her router so she could hang out with her guy friends. And yet Brandan couldn't even go to the dentist by himself. But Brandan never claimed that these jealousy issues were one-sided, and Mary claimed that he had influenced her decision to quit college and dance. But as time went on, I didn't see any proof that Brandan was as jealous. Maybe if Brandan had talked to a private investigator to possibly follow Mary around like Riley did to Violet, I would have believed that he was just as much of a problem as Mary was. Instead, we just see Mary as the one acting completely unhinged. I was pretty positive that she was more of the problem after the plane incident. You know, the one where Brandan was sitting next to girls. And I also saw that weird gaslighting TikTok.
Why you can't see me?
Because you turned off your camera, you said so.
I just want to turn it off.
Why?
Because.
So by episode 4, I was pretty sure that Mary was the villain, but I still had a slight hesitation to label Mary as such so early. And this is mostly because TLC likes to create whatever story they want. You can get a good edit or a bad edit on this show. Producers are the ones that decide that. So honestly, with only being a few episodes in, I didn't want to make the call too early and be wrong. I really thought that they were both weird at first, so I wanted to see how these two interacted in person before I shared my full opinion. You can blame Mike and Jimena for my hesitation.
Oh, no.
We went a whole season not knowing Jimena was actually a cam girl.
Antes de yo conocer a Mike, yo comencé a trabajar de modelo webcam y así fue como lo conocí a él, a través de la página.
And from the beginning, their entire relationship was transactional.
Y un día me dijo, salte, yo te ayudo. Y ya desde ahí comenzó a colaborarme.
I also wondered, was the constant video calling just a way to get them on the show? Would this strange behavior even out when they were in person together? Or was this obsession with each other going to continue on the show? Well, I can say that in episode 5, Mary's insane behavior did solidify that she is the true villain in my eyes. Their segment starts out with their very first morning together, and Mary is feeding Brandan.
I want him to get chubby because when he's chubby, he's huggable.
Is that really why you want Brandan to gain weight, Mary? I think she just wants him under her full control in every way possible. And she wants no one else to take him from her. Brandan, on the other hand, is preoccupied with getting Mary's family's approval. We see him try to work on the farm, and he tries his best to gain the respect of Mary's grandfather, so he tells him about their forbidden airport kiss.
Part of being, respectful to others is not keeping secrets.
It pretty much backfired.
Nag-kiss kami nga dua.
Because not only did that make her grandpa angry, but it also put pressure on Brandan to marry Mary immediately.
You know, I only just kissed her, and I have to marry her right away?
Brandan wants to marry Mary, but his main concern is that they work on their jealousy issues before a proposal. That makes a lot of sense, and Brandan slowly starts to seem much more level-headed than I originally thought he was. We also get more insight on Brandan and Mary's jealousy when they go meet Mary's guy friends.
Pong doesn't like how you not letting me hang out with them.
Brandan had so many rules when it came to him having any friends of his own.
Does Pong know how you don't let me hang out with friends? I couldn't even make friends who were guys.
So he wasn't allowed to hang out with pretty much anyone. But Mary was allowed to go hang out with her guy friends because of her own twisted reasoning.
I didn't want you hanging out with guys that I didn't know.
Well, I met them before I met you.
Brandan had all of these rules and Mary did what she wanted, period. That's messed up.
My friends are important to me, and I don't want to lose them.
Brandan even mentions Mary going to the beach with her friends and her not having service. Could you imagine him doing anything like that? And with girls? Mary is obviously the one in charge. Because even when her friends throw her under the bus, she doesn't really seem worried about Brandan's reaction.
So, do you know that Mary unplugged her Wi-Fi, turned off her phone?
She says she feels bad, but she just laughs.
Yeah.
Why is she giggling? Ugh.
If I were to ever do that to her, she would never forgive me.
When he does say that he's upset about this, Mary starts the instant waterworks. And Brandan very quickly backs off and even apologizes. So this is a great example of Brandan maturely standing up for himself. But then he backs down almost instantly when Mary throws a fit.
You need to stop being jealous, both of you.
Look, I'm here, okay?
He caught her in a huge lie, and she easily cried her way out of it. She says she feels guilty, but I think she only feels guilty because she got caught. And now I believe that Brandan hasn't been as jealous this whole time. I think he tried to even the playing field when Mary made a bunch of rules for him. I could see his mindset being, if he couldn't have any friends, why could she? But even with all of those rules they set, Mary still kept hanging out with her guy friends no matter what Brandan said. This also makes me doubt that he had anything to do with her quitting school and dance. She is the one with the power here and apparently makes all of the decisions. But Brandan doesn't seem to be completely okay with that. And something that he says I think foreshadows the next episode quite well.
I just wanted to have friends in general. I can't just isolate myself forever.
On episode 7, Brandan and Mary go to church together, and this is the first time we see them together in a public place surrounded by strangers. At this point, Brandan has forgiven Mary for lying to him about pretending to have Wi-Fi outages, and he has even agreed to try to be friends with her guy friends, but that doesn't make Mary any less controlling.
Don't look at girls.
She is really trying to isolate him like he was worried about.
Mary telling me that she doesn't want me looking at other girls is a bit much.
They are literally in a church and he can't look around.
Don't look at girls, okay? Like I told you.
He is at least acknowledging that it is messed up for her to act like this. I mean, what is she going to do next? Take his glasses so he can't see anything?
To be physically controlled, like where I can look, who I can speak to, I don't think anyone should have to live like that.
No one should have to live like that. And she says it so many times. So now we know what these two are like in public. And Mary sucks. The real question is if Brandan will continue to stand up for himself and not just constantly cave because she can cry on cue. We find out that answer pretty quickly after they leave the church.
I can't go out in public or look at someone without you accusing me of being a cheater.
She keeps telling Brandan while he says this that he can do what he wants to do, but he acts like she's saying that as a way to trap him into admitting that he wants to look at girls. I watched this twice and it got worse to watch the second time. She keeps saying that he can look at whoever he wants. It's like she's trying to prove that he has interest in looking at girls at the church. That's what I got out of this. And that is so crazy. They're at a church. And when he doesn't fall for it, she starts the instant tears again.
A lot of people promise me that they're not going to leave me, but they leave me.
Mary has serious issues with abandonment because of her parents. There seems to be a pattern of abandonment issues on these shows. Statler was adopted, and her abandonment issues make her drive in a U-Haul right after the first I love you. Mary's abandonment issues apparently make her worried that Brandan will cheat on her in a church and on a plane.
Danielle and her magic coconut are here to manifest you subscribing to the Kiblz channel.
Perfecto.
I'm sorry you had to watch that. She's a moron. But if you have not subscribed, please do so.
As much as I think that it's very sad that Mary was abandoned, and I don't doubt that it gives her a lot of anxiety, this obsessive level of jealousy needs to stop, because even mild sauce Brandan won't put up with it. And he was also abandoned by his mom.
I want you to trust that I can look and talk to anyone without leaving you.
Brandan does do a good job of expressing his feelings.
My life, I can't be limited like this.
So because of that, I thought for a brief second that this is going to turn into a productive conversation. But Mary says, then find someone else. And we see her strategy of how she tries to manipulate her way through this relationship. That's right, she has a complete toddler level meltdown. Well, we have seen it now in person. Mary is a true villain. And she isn't as forthcoming about it like Ed or even Danielle. She's sneaky about it. Brandan can't express any of his frustrations, even gently, without her completely losing her shit. And on the next episode, Mary's meltdown continues.
Try really hard to just hold on.
So what? She's going to do this every time Brandan stands up for himself? Come on, mild sauce, don't let her win. This is seriously more like a high school relationship than an adult one. I am now wishing that I called out Mary earlier for being a villain. This is ridiculous. There is no way that some surprise detail will come out about Brandan and change my mind at this point. I think we are seeing who he really is now and how Mary truly is now. In a way, I feel bad for this guy, but he moved to the Philippines with no plan, knowing that they had these kinds of issues. And now I think he's realizing that it's not getting any better. It's probably going to be like Ed and Liz. We will probably feel bad for Brandan for a while, but then he will just keep going back over and over, and we will get sick of hearing him saying he's done. Liz doesn't have sympathy from me anymore. She chose this toad and now she's slowly morphing into him. Let me know what you think about Brandan and Mary. Abandonment issues or not, this is extremely toxic. We'll have to see if her blubbering works on Brandan and if he caves in or not. Do you think he will? I kind of think he will. We will have to see how the next episode plays out. Anyways, thanks for watching. Bye!